All right, everyone, there are two fairly monumental bits of Russia bullcrap to cover today. In both cases, they play well to what Trump's been saying all along, which is there's no collusion between me and Russia. There's no collusion between my campaign and Russia. Any collusion that did occur was some staffers, people like maybe Michael Flynn, who got cleared anyway with some Russian agents or whatever. That appears to be increasingly likely to be the case. I was always very skeptical of the claims because it appeared that the DNC had largely adopted the Trump-Russia line as a reaction to having their own material leaked by WikiLeaks. They didn't really know how to respond, so they labeled it a Russian conspiracy in hopes that their fans wouldn't dig too deep into the material. CNN, at the same time, which is now caught up in new bullshit regarding it, actually said on air, oh, don't look at these WikiLeaks stuff, it's illegal for you to do so, which is provably false. That's a downright, complete, and utter lie. A lot of people probably believed it, though, and said, oh, no, I went on WikiLeaks, I gotta throw my computer in the toaster oven now, or something like that. I wonder if anyone sued CNN for loss of computing software because they got paranoid about Russians or something like that. But this first piece of news comes about Fusion GPS, and they are linked to the Pissgate documents that were put out there. Now, there were several variants of the Pissgate story. The first was mostly innocuous, and it was basically Trump doesn't like the Obamas, and Trump, you know, occasionally hires women of the night in his hotel, essentially. Then there was apparently the Fusion GPS version, which also made the claim that he hired Russian hookers to piss on the Obama's bed, among other things. Then there was the 4chan fed version, which some people were also circulating as real, which also added, oh yeah, Trump likes to dress in pajamas and eat ice cream while watching anime surrounded by an army of hookers and stuff like that. So it devolved into chaos. There were multiple variants, but the Fusion GPS version itself with the Pissgate documents, that was circulated as though it was real. We now know it's absolutely provably false, and for some reason, the intelligence agencies themselves somehow thought this was real after it got peddled to various reporters, and supposedly investigative journalistic firms like CNN, lol, or the Washington Post, lol, or any of these other fake news groups, which primarily form a propaganda arm of the establishment within the U.S. government. So you've got this weird situation where they created stuff, apparently slapped some of it together from Wikipedia and then sold it for inordinate sums to people who wanted intel on Trump. And they've proven that that's the case. And now this same firm doesn't want to answer questions from those trying to investigate what ties it has to the Democratic Party. Now, if it was just a money-making endeavor and they were just sort of trolling people and putting stuff out there because they're like, well, Trump is being headhunted, so let's give them something. It's cheap to manufacture this fake crap, and we can sell it. We can make hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's a money-making scheme. That's apparently the line they're going with. Why then wouldn't you want to answer questions from investigators into whether you were working with the Democratic Party to begin with? Now, I smell a rat. I think that they probably were working with them. Somebody gave them money in the first place, said, oh, slap something together, pass it off as real in hopes that the media will take it up, so that they can talk about Trump having like a pee fetish or something like that. That appears to be what happened, which explains why they wouldn't want to answer investigative questions into what they were doing that whole time. So there's the first significant piece of material that really buoys up my opinion of the Trump-Russia stuff as being nothing but fakery. I don't think there was any collusion. The next part of this story I'll talk about in a few minutes is perhaps even more damning because it involves CNN itself. Now remember, CNN and MSNBC, variously, at different times, were implicated in the DNC leaks as having coordinated directly with the Clinton campaign. It's all there in black and white. The emails are real. Donna Brazile accidentally said that they were real by referring to them as material that had been stolen rather than fakery. It looks like Fusion GPS was involved. I wouldn't be surprised if many other firms were involved too. It was a dirty campaign. It's the kind of campaign style we're used to from the Clintons, and the Bush neocons do basically the same thing. Whereas Trump, his campaign style all throughout was basically, I'm going to tweet mean things out, people will turn it into a meme, and I'll always phrase it in such a way that anyone who tries to lambaste me looks like an ass when I respond. And that worked. It's very, very interesting to me that even somebody with the strategic sense of Donald Trump was able to overcome the Clinton machine. Because when we look deeper and deeper into what the Clinton campaign was doing, we have the DNC shafting one of its own candidates and forcing them to fundraise and then giving the money to the Clinton campaign. We have the FBI running interference, probably, for the Clinton campaign. We have the Clinton campaign raising an inordinate and record-breaking amount of money to fund its campaign. We have Clinton getting the backing of even some Republicans. Herbert Walker, I believe it was one of the Kennedy Democrats, said, oh yeah, I talked to HW, he indicated he might vote for Hillary Clinton. You had everything set up in the world that could possibly be there to elect Hillary Clinton, and yet she lost the election. And she must feel, of all people who have ever lost an election, she of all, I think, feels the most robbed because of all those extra votes in California. She actually gets the popular vote. She has literally everybody behind her and saying that her opponent is absolutely nuts, and she still manages to lose. That says, I think, something about her weakness, not just Trump's strength. Now we've got this crap, where we find the documents that were fairly easily disclosed as fraud to begin with. It wasn't long before people said these documents aren't in fact real. Made its way into the CIA and the FBI, managed to fool them at least for a while. Certainly made the rounds on social media and managed to get into some of the corporate media offshoots. You see, the structure of corporate media today isn't just some multinational parent company owns a TV network or a radio station. They also own or co-opt groups that are supposedly independent reporting. That is, they're online only, they have sort of they're not under some FCC license on TV or something. It's a smaller radio firm, something local, it's a website or something, or just a social media presence. You'd think of the Young Turks. It's something that casts itself as very independent, but its parent company and or investors are invariably in bed. Now, with the same firms that run like CNN or Fox or something along those lines. Now, and that's really how they get around trying to maintain the image of journalistic integrity while also spreading outright lies. They simply don't have the establishment, sort of the more lamestream, old-style firms doing it. They simply take up the stories that the Democratic Party makes up a story through some contractor, feeds it to groups it's controlling, it gets reported on the alt media, then it uses lamestream establishment legacy media that it controls to report on it further. It's an interesting setup. You'd think that at some point people would realize that this is actually happening, and it happens on the right too. You get something like Drudge that happens to be generally GOP friendly. It reports something, it gets taken up by Fox or by Breitbart or something like that. It's an interesting corporate structure. It certainly manages to fool a lot of people, although it used to fool more of them. I think it's starting to fall by the wayside, thank goodness. But Trump, I don't believe, had any connection with Russia. So a link in the description as always. It's archived because I don't want to give him any ad revenue. Even if this site supposedly is like somewhat right-leaning, who cares? It's still corporate media. That's about all. Peace out.